Welcome back to the Torque Test channel. There's a new most powerful mid-torque impact on the market, and it's sporting specs like 885 foot-pounds of loosening torque, which makes it, by the numbers, beat everything ever made in this category, including the beastly and latest DeWalt DCF 891 that's been wearing that crown for a while now. So let's see how it takes on those at the top. And speaking of top mid-torque impacts, testing some never-before-seen specs today, we're going to take this opportunity today to go over all the top mid-torque impacts, as well as buying a new one that looks an awfully lot like a Milwaukee but in blue, because mid-torques, they're a uniquely cordless class of tools, which makes the comparisons clean, and we're now up to 40 models tested, so we're going to highlight what we think are some of the top picks on sale today after seeing what these latest models can do stacked up against the rest. So what is a mid-torque? Well, it's a cordless impact, often by a brand that makes a compact or a high torque size big guy impact that for our purposes is 6 inches and over in length. That's 6 inches matching the shortest mid-torque out there, the Milwaukee. And they make mid-tier type power, which historically has been like 550 advertised bolt breakaway, but these days we're getting up to 750 like the Flex mid-torque, 800 in the case of the latest DeWalt, and yes, 885 with this all-new Metabo SSW 18 LTX 800, which despite topping the specs there, matches the DeWalt in tightening with 590 foot-pounds, so we'll have to see today. We paid $271 for this green guy, which comes in this fancy case, even bare, which is a lot, but I imagine it could be even more if this were a made in Germany Metabo rather than China. And the first thing you'll notice about this tool is it's a chunker, which is a trend among modern impacts, not because it's trendy, but because physics lends itself to more weight further from the center to make hammers do more boom per hit, which to optimize torque per inch of length makes a flat-nosed chunker of a tool. But that does make this tool shorter than the 6.9 inch long DeWalt, and around the proportions of a Makita mid-torque. Metabo being slightly lighter than that, but also heavier once you clip on a battery. This is the Metabo battery we have so far, but there's a same size and weight, 5.5 amp hour, that is rumored to be spicier, so we bought one, and it arrived this week as their past generation 5.2 amp hour, so that idea is out. Now, if you want shorter, narrower, lighter, and a whole lot cheaper, one new impact that came out within the last couple months is this, the Yahweh. Well, anyways, it's another unknown, at least to us, Amazon brand. And why bother with this? Well, it's the highest power rated mid-torque on Amazon right now at 1000 newton meters or 738 foot-pounds, which would make this the third highest in general among mid-torque impacts in the US to our knowledge. And while it's smaller than the Metabo and shorter than the brand advertises, the obvious comparison to draw on, we think, is with this, the Milwaukee, with some pretty clear design choices, hardware types, and locations that, let's say, is inspired by that red tool. Unlike past Amazon hopefuls that very much have their sights obviously on Makita by their design, this is the first one that looked like to us a Gen 2 M18, so that was enough to fork over the $150 or so for the 2 battery kit. Those batteries being a rare case of looking and feeling rather decent. And yes, again, basically Makita remakes, which is an upside because that means you can use your own LXT batteries and even clip in the beans, our custom made spicy Makita pack, to see what happens. So let's see what happens. First, in our 5-second working torque test with Milwaukee and the DeWalt, that's going sky high as you see here. $277 foot-pounds, not all that much really, at least in this group. Well, let's see if the Metabo has what it takes to measure up to the DeWalt that it's eyeing in the specs. $450 foot-pounds, that's a record on this channel, the most a mid-torque has ever made here. Nice. So far looking promising for the mighty Metabo. Let's head over into reverse with the industry standard max torque test. Here's the Amazon Milwaukee clone that's looking fairly sheepish as far as clones go thus far. $410 foot-pounds over the 406 of the Milwaukee, seemingly loving reverse here. Often we see no-name brand impacts favoring forward way more, which is not all that useful to us. But this is why we keep buying these funny looking and sounding underdogs. When they're terrible, that's sort of fun to watch, and when it's the opposite, doubly so. Alright, and now for the tool we expected to do well today, the Metabo taking on the DeWalt for the top spot. $558 foot-pounds, which would be another record if it weren't for DeWalt here, updating their mid-torque to the latest 891 beast, is looking to be following a similar curve, and also pretty strong there at the end. Let's see what they can do. Best case scenario, best numbers instead of median results here, 15-second runs. Yahweh up first. $441 foot-pounds, that's quite good, but the Milwaukee in its best flavor, which is 3/8, can do better in its best run, all said. But this isn't quite looking at the Amazon Impact's best case scenario, is it? The Impact can accept Makita LXT packs, so let's throw one of those on these and see what the difference is, which you're seeing now. Our usual go-to Amazon no-name brand CC does do this as well with Makita packs, but historically on their top models we see like 10, 12, 14 foot-pound gains here. The Yahweh with 440 foot-pounds becoming 482 foot-pounds with gains really early on too, everywhere really. That's good stuff. And look at that matchup with the Milwaukee, a pretty compact and light Milwaukee wannabe that matches it fairly closely in size too, matches it here in power when using a real but nothing really all that special power tool battery in the Makita. Man, is this the type of stuff we like to do, finding the little diamonds in the rough like this. Maybe I find too much enjoyment from these discoveries, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. Oh, and we're not done. The Molicel P45B Hot Rod Cell Pack. We built this Makita LXT battery with large gauge wires and doubled up leads for one purpose, juicing up tools that have no reason to have this much wattage to pull from, should they choose. And the Yahweh, it's a thirsty tool when you can supply it. 513 foot-pounds? Seriously?
Crushing it.
That's like Makita mid-torque numbers using the same battery pack on a smaller, no-name brand tool. Weird timeline we're living in these days. But let's get back to reality with the Metabo. One last chance here to see if it can be at the top. $626 foot-pounds, pulling it out here at the end and beating the DeWalt. This Impact is a little punisher, and it will punish you a bit too, the DeWalt being the only mid-torque to carry a wrist-breaking score on the channel with a 5 out of 10 in severity. The Metabo joins those ranks with a 5.5 for different reasons, sort of torquing or twisting your arm, not vibrations like the DeWalt, and passing up a high torque here in the rankings in the Flex, though makes about as much sauce as that thing as well. Technology is crazy these days. The power these things can put out is just insane. So let's see where that power helps these tools rank. Starting on the Amazon ranking first, these tools have their own list because A, the warranty is a mixed bag if it exists, and B, they're only sold in kits. Starting below the CCs that dominate this list, the Yahweh gets rewarded for its testing efforts in the form of 28, 41, and 44 points. At 6.4 inches long, it makes torque per inch of 68.9. While its loosening claim was way up there at 738, its tightening here, even in reverse, is a more modest number and makes for 80% of that here. $130 with a correction like we do with any of the 2 battery kits to compare to the 1 battery kits, that earns 50.9 points here, totaling 312.8, moving it up but not much further into third, but for its size, one of the most promising options on the list for sure, in my opinion. And hear me out, let's assume for a second you own a Makita battery pack already, and we update just the best case scenario numbers like you would slap it on in a bind when you just need best case performance. That makes all of this become 335.9 well into first, and it would stay there even if these use the same battery. Cool stuff, and we'll leave a note for that here. Okay, and for the big dogs with matching prices, the new Metabo gets 45, 56, and 63. This kind of power fitting in this confined of a space makes for 93 foot-pounds of torque per inch of length. When we started, not even high torques were in the 90s yet. That's a mid-torque record to date, though the recent flex comes in close. 590 tightening is what it claimed. It makes at least that, full marks here. And $271, it's going to hurt it here. Not as much as the Makita XGT, but still, that's 34.7 points, totaling 391.7, placing it into second overall among 40 mid-torques on the market, and number 1 overall in peak numbers it was able to hit. Though, of course, realistically, DeWalt has many other batteries that can spice things up a bit, maybe Metabo does too, which brings us to the topic of top mid-torques after these past years and 40 models buying them and testing them. For the impact that's most used, as in grabbed for most often, that's Milwaukee Gen 2. It's short, it's light, it's still used a lot around here. Not this one in particular, as we keep it camera ready, but it is still relevant. But we do come across, seemingly increasingly often, more bolts it can't tackle, which is like this on the end of an application list, and sometimes not even. They even look more innocent than these types of applications. So best step up in power from there. Lately, it's been the Flex for us. It tacks on a good 100 foot-pounds over the half-inch Milwaukee while being the closest in size as well, and for less coin, hard to ignore those types of specs. But when we're talking specs, man, it is heavy too, oddly heavy for its size. Flex batteries don't help with that. So if that's not your jam, a lot of these impacts towards the top aren't going to be for you. Modern high torque has meant heavy hammers lately. Something the latest Bosch is a nice example of a step in a different direction for. That'd be our pick for a lighter modern mid-torque. Okay, and for full beans, as in all the torques, this is the category where you likely don't need a high torque if you buy one of these, which is a cost savings thing in itself. The new Metabo and the DeWalt, maybe with the 5 amp hour power stack, which is a nice combo for weight and performance. These are the only two that if someone asks me for a lightweight high torque, I'd just suggest one of these and not even mention that it's a mid torque, they punch that hard. And finally, value. The Ryobi P262 comes to mind for really how much it costs and how much you get, but we've had issues with ours. Rigid is good too, but also no cost savings most days here. So probably Cobalt Gen 2, it's hard to beat, though wish it was available sold bare as well. And frankly, any of these 3 CC and Yahweh impacts, which took us buying 15 to find, so it's a bit of a minefield out there to wade through, but these two have been used daily and not died yet. We'll let you know if this one does as well. More opinions than normal here. Usually we're all about the numbers, so take it all with a grain of salt, and as always, consider other sources out there. We make episodes every Friday. Click subscribe to see those, and thanks for watching.